The narcissist hears more than silence after you leave. They hear echoes, reminders, haunting sounds that used to feed their ego now turned against them. These sounds do not just remind them of you, they remind them of what they lost. Can you guess what that is? Control, access, and supply. And what they never had in the first place: your love, your loyalty, and your soul. You were never just a partner, you were their mirror, as I have explained before. You reflected what they desperately wanted to see in themselves: warmth, empathy, and humanity. The problem is, they do not know how to protect that. They only knew how to consume it. Now that you are gone, the noise in their world shifts. Everything sounds different, everything feels off. It's not your presence that haunts them, it's the absence of your reactions, your energy, your essence. They hear it all around them in the most unexpected ways, and what they hear, they cannot stand. Hi, I am Danish, a narcissistic abuse recovery professional. Welcome to my channel. Today, we are going to talk about 5 sounds narcissists cannot stand after you leave them. Each one of these is more than just a noise. Each is a wound, a reminder, a mirror they cannot break. Let's dive in. Number 1, your laughter. Your laughter was never just a sound, it was a signal. What kind of a signal? Well, in the early stages of the relationship, it served as a proof to the narcissist that they were charming, desirable, powerful. Their spell was working on you. They watched how your face softened, how your guard dropped, how your shoulders relaxed when you laughed in their presence. That moment to them meant they had succeeded in capturing you. It wasn't your joy they loved. It was the validation your joy gave them. Your laughter was treated like a trophy, something they believed they had earned, something that existed to glorify them. But as the relationship progressed, your laughter started to shift. It became measured, careful, even forced or strained. You still laughed, but not with the same freedom, not with the same ease. You started to hold it back when you felt unseen, when your jokes were used against you, when you were made the joke, when they responded to your excitement with irritation or coldness. Laughter, which once flowed so naturally from you, began to feel like a risk. It became something you had to hide or suppress because it was not always welcome anymore. Unless, of course, it was at the right time, in the right tone, for the right reason, meaning on their terms. And that is when they began to lose it. See, when your laughter no longer revolved around them, when it came from an inside joke with a friend, from a private memory, let's say from a moment of real inner peace, they felt it. They may not have said anything outright, but something inside them shifted. Because your laughter that did not include them was a reminder that you had an inner life, a private joy, a spirit they could not fully own. It was a crack in the illusion of control. After you walk away, that sound becomes unbearable to them because now you are laughing again, but without their shadow looming over you. You're laughing with more freedom, more softness, more depth, because it's no longer tied to survival. It's no longer a mask to keep the peace. It's no longer given to someone who never truly appreciated it. It is yours again. And that is what stings the narcissist. They do not hate your laughter per se because it annoys them. They hate it because it exposes them. It proves that you were never really broken. You were just buried. It proves that everything they told themselves about being the reason for your joy was a lie. It proves that you have a life that no longer orbits around their chaos. So they check your stories in silence. They hover over your old photos. They replay the old voice notes where you once giggled in their arms. But it's not nostalgia. It's not regret. It is loss of control. The sound that once meant ownership now means liberation. And that is something they were never prepared to witness. Do you see how deep this goes? Because what they hear in your laughter now is something they cannot mimic or replicate. A person who got out alive and learned how to live again. Number 2, the voice in their head that sounds like you. The narcissist will often act as if your departure was irrelevant. They'll move on within seconds. They will wear their usual mask of indifference, irrelevance, pretending you were just another chapter in their story. They closed without any emotion. That is a part of the performance they would give the world and sometimes even themselves. But behind the facade, there is something they cannot shake: the sound of your voice lodged deep in their psyche. Not just the way you sounded when things were good, but the way you sounded when you were breaking. The voice that once calmed them, that asked gentle but pointed questions, that showed concern, disappointments, hope. It lives in them now. That voice does not come up when they are distracted or admired. It returns when their environment quiets down, when they lie in bed and sleep does not come easily, when their new supply starts asking similar questions, when someone they are trying to impress catches a red flag. That is when your voice creeps in. And it doesn't creep in like a memory, but like a mirror they cannot turn away from. It's not just what you said, but how you said it, how your tone changed over time, how your boundaries sharpened, how your patience ran out. Those echoes are no longer comforting. They have turned into confrontations they never asked for and cannot avoid now. They may scroll through old texts or hear a line from a show that reminds them of something you once said, and for a moment it pulls them into an unwanted place, a space where they are no longer in control. That internal echo becomes an irritant, especially because it reminds them that they were seen, truly seen, and still managed to lose someone who genuinely cared. They may convince others and, as I said, even themselves, that they don't miss you, but your psychological imprint proves otherwise. It's not the same type of missing you experience, it's residue. The kind that cannot be washed off or overwritten, the kind that unsettles them in total silence. Talking about silence, number 3, the silence in their empty space. Silence can be healing. It can feel like clarity, like exhaling after holding your breath too long. But for a narcissist, silence is suffocating. It is not a break from the world. It is a confrontation with themselves, their rottenness. When you were still part of their life, your presence filled up their atmosphere in ways they took for granted. Your footsteps, your voice in the other room, your routine sighs, the background hum of your existence, it all created a sense of life, even if they spent much of their time trying to dominate it. You were their emotional compass, whether they acknowledge it or not. Your reactions, your emotions, your arguments, your tears, all of it gave them something to push against, something to control, something to play with, something to measure themselves against. That noise was familiar, and more importantly, it was a distraction from the emptiness they carried. After you leave, that emotional ecosystem collapses. At first, they may enjoy the space, tell themselves they feel free, but it doesn't last. The room that once annoyed them for being too filled with your energy now feels unnaturally still. There is no one left to provoke, no one to ignore, no one to mock or manipulate. The walls do not echo with your voice anymore. The kitchen does not smell like your cooking. The couch where they once watched you cry, defend yourself, or laugh until you could not breathe now stares back at them, barren and cold. It's not just physical silence. I'm talking about emotional starvation, because they have spent years outsourcing their sense of self to the people around them. Without someone reacting to them, adoring them, fearing them, challenging them, they are left with nothing but the hollowness they've always carried. And that hollowness becomes louder than any argument ever was. No validation, no audience, just themselves. This is where the panic begins. They start pacing, scrolling, reaching out to old connections, trying to recreate noise, anything to drown out the reality that without you, they are no one in particular. They may latch onto someone new, hoping to fill the silence quickly. But deep down, the void isn't from the lack of a person. It is from the absence of meaning. The silence you left behind reminds them they were never truly connected to you, only dependent on what you gave them emotionally. Let that sink in. And now, stripped of that supply, they are left to face a truth they have spent their entire life avoiding. The noise was never coming from them. It was always borrowed from the people they drained. This is my life story. This is exactly what my mother experienced when I left and still keeps experiencing in my absence. Number 4, the sound of you thriving publicly. Healing doesn't always announce itself loudly, but it is never truly quiet either. It radiates through the way you speak, the way you carry yourself, the energy that follows you into a room. Even your stillness can speak volumes when it is rooted in self-respect. And when a narcissist comes across the signs of your growth, whether online, through mutual acquaintances, or by accident, it hits them in a place they do not like to acknowledge exists. Because your thriving does not just represent recovery. Can you tell me what it represents? Their failure. It exposes the lie they told themselves about who you were and how important they were to your stability. They spent so much time shaping a narrative in their mind where you were lost without them, where you were the overly emotional one, the chaotic one, the weak one who would not survive the loss. That story gave them comfort. It gave them a reason to feel superior. So when you started showing signs of strength, when you land a new job, look healthier, laugh louder, or speak with the kind of clarity you never had around them, it forces them to confront something deeply unsettling. Not only did you survive, but you are becoming someone they no longer can reach. And even worse, someone they never really understood to begin with. It doesn't have to be a grand public show or achievement. Sometimes it's the subtle things. A group photo where you look genuinely at peace. A video clip where your smile is real and unforced. A friend casually mentioning that you have been doing well. These small moments echo in their mind longer than they will ever admit. Your growth becomes a sound they cannot ignore, a kind of internal buzzing that reminds them of their failure to reduce you, control you, or leave a lasting mark of damage. They do not view your joy as separate from them. They take it personally. Your glow feels like defiance. Your peace feels like disrespect. Because if you can move forward and rebuild after what they put you through, then it must mean they were not as powerful as they thought, that your identity was never as fragile as they assumed. And that truth, quiet, steady, undeniable, is something that ego does not know how to digest. Number 5, the sound of you not responding. There is nothing more destabilizing to a narcissist than silence that isn't laced with confusion, fear, or hope. And your silence no longer holds the tension of waiting or hurting. When it becomes quiet because you simply no longer care, it disrupts their entire system of control. They're used to provoking reactions, aren't they? Whether through charm or cruelty. Your emotions, even your anger, were once a form of proof that they still had a grip on you. So when you stop reacting altogether, not with resistance but with indifference, it rattles them in a way few things can. They test the waters, a message out of nowhere, a vague social media post meant for your eyes, a shared photo that is just suggestive enough to stir a memory. Sometimes they even use mutual context to pass along subtle reminders. All of it is bait. They do not need you to love them or even like them. They just need proof that you still feel something. Because if you do, then in their mind, they're still relevant. But when nothing comes back, no response, no glance, no energy, the silence becomes unbearable. It confronts them with the one truth they cannot rewrite, which is they no longer have access. Your absence, steady and intentional, becomes louder than any message they could send. And in that silence, they are left talking to themselves, trying to salvage a narrative that no longer includes you. I hope you resonated with what I shared with you in this episode. I will talk to you in the next one. Until then, as always, let the healing begin and continue.